Well, good day, everybody. Santa Clarita Insider Show. This is where you're going to get the inside information on everything Santa Clarita. Tim Blankenship and myself. He handles the divorce realm of the world. I handle the real estate realm of the world. We have guests on from time to time. Today is no different. We're going to have U.S. Taylor as soon as he joins into the show. A friend of mine, worked together. He was on the PD with me for a very long time, and Tim knows those same types of people. And welcome to the 14th day of March, 2023. I thought we'd never get here. How are you, Tim?
Good, Connor. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I still have these styes. I'm working this out. I don't know.
You can't really see. You can't tell.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, this is like, I feel like right here, but not here or here. Remember that where that guy cracked him over the face with a bat? The two brothers, the real fat guy, Chris Farley, he was one in
Farley.
it. And Dana, the other brother was there, and he hit him with that 2x4 anyway.
Yeah. You just need one in the other eye so you can balance it out.
Yeah, right. Right. Oh, very good. So you have so the show, just so everybody knows that's listening, this is really on the fringe, on the cuff.
Cutting edge.
We prepare, but we're not scripted, We're here to talk about the things people want to know about. Yep. And in with that, what do you got, Tim? You got anything good?
So just a couple of just local things while we're waiting for our guest to sign in. Maybe having some technical trouble. Just want to share a couple of things that, when we do the show, it's interesting. You have to kind of dig for some information, and I'm always learning stuff. And then I have some neighbors that watch the show. Adam, you met Adam.
Oh yeah, good guy. I'm friends and family with Adam.
Yeah, and he'll always text me and say, I didn't know about that. So I guess we learned more about the city. So anyways, just wanted to share this since it's relevant tax season. Apparently College of the Canyons runs a free tax preparation service up until through April 22nd, it says here. I guess it's students, part of this volunteer income tax assistance program. And some caveats, though, you have to make less than $60,000 a year, or have persons with disabilities, limited English speaking taxpayers, et cetera. But I guess they are, there's some IRS folks there supervising this to make sure.
Interesting. I don't know if you would want that, but that's good.
No, I don't know how. You're not going to be able to cut too many corners, I imagine.
I doubt that those were the people that would find all the loopholes for you. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So I went to their appointment. I thought they'd be full, but it's just on Saturdays, and it shows that they have availability. These 2 Saturdays.
Oh wow!
I guess we're running up. Well, this is all the way into April. I didn't realize that. So there is availability, but I guess you better book now. The appointments are 2 hours, so they can only get so many people in.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Santa Clarita.
That's right.
Insider. Better get there.
That's right. They probably put this out, I think, in January.
Well, at least we got to it finally. We've had a lot on our show list, Tim. All the stuff that we've been
lots to cover,
all the information, like that stabbing.
Yeah, what was going on with that? I was out in Newhall, huh?
Yeah, 14th Street. The problem with some of these sites that I'm pulling it up on, like CNBC, or is it CBS? I don't know which one. Let me see. CBS won't let you look at it until you actually subscribe. But stabbing was reported 11:36 p.m. Saturday in the 22500 block of 14th Street, according to Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Deputies dispatched to the location regarding a call of men fighting inside a business discovered a man suffering from stab wounds to his upper body. And the fight occurred at Dooley's Liquor and Market, according to a source at the location. Oh, the victim was pronounced dead. Oh, yeah, death. Stabbed to death. I guess that would be dead.
That makes sense.
So they did identify this cat, but I can't get that information. But what do you do? So you and me, we're in the shop, and Rob, we're in there to buy, I don't know what, some juice or maybe a water, and some guy breaks in with a knife, maybe fighting another guy. As a normal person, what do? We just throw beer bottles at them, or now you're a victim?
No, or what? Then you take some action, and then they sue you.
Yeah, especially if you have if you're retired or honorably retired cop and you got a gun. I mean, it's all real sticky stuff.
Well, what happened to that older gentleman? It was I think it was a Home Depot out on the East Coast somewhere, and he tried to intervene. Senior citizen employee of Home Depot, I want to say, and intervened in a shoplift, and the guy knocked him down, he hit his head, and died. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see these
It's
people, you don't know what you're going to do until you're faced with those circumstances, right? Us being former law enforcement would probably do something stupid, but
what
they
what is
show these people going in and robbing, or I should say, burglarizing. I should get the facts right, but going into the Apple stores and just tearing the phones off the counters, and people. I'm fascinated by people who don't take action, but just watch, or worse, just record them. 20 people with cameras. While what was that in New York? Some lady was being raped on a train, and they're just recording on their phones, not calling the police, not taking any action. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, I heard rumor that was the Paul Walker escape when he died out here. I guess people were filming that while he was,
Burning.
I guess, still had the opportunity to have a window broken and have him pulled
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
But
It's just a fascinating phenomenon of just recording
right, yeah,
crime.
that's the
You know,
first thing a lot of the generation, at least, I don't know about ours, but they consider the phone first,
yeah,
not helping, not, "Oh my god," they say, "Oh shit, let's get this on," I mean, "Oh heck, let's get this
yeah,
on film."
yeah.
And it blows my mind, you're right. Yeah, but, we talk about, being out in these situations, you're somewhere with your family, and then all of a sudden people break in. That's a very hard place to be, it really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And you have to consider, if you have family with you, your kids,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah, you can't just, break out the gun and start going to town. You gotta
Exactly.
be careful with it. Yeah, that's interesting. So, it's Santa Cruz is still a very safe place to live. Don't get us wrong. This stuff comes up in any city from time to time. Where I
Yeah,
grew up in New Mexico, we had our one murder a year, whether we needed it or not.
for sure. On the news yesterday, there's all this talk about, since we're talking about crime,
Mhm.
Mexico, President of
Mm.
Mexico said that Mexico is safer than the U.S. So so I don't know, it was Newsmax or Fox News, one of the channels I watch, they put up statistics of
Right.
uh, some of our states and cities versus Mexico cities. Of course, Mexico cities made the top list. I think it was how many murders per 100,000. So I think it was number one Tijuana, number two Acapulco, but I think number three was Chicago. So when they kind of
Oh,
blended it together, I should have pulled that up because it was a kind of interesting statistic. So to a degree, he's somewhat right that as far as the per capita murders, we're blended in the top 10. I think that three were U.S. and seven were um, Mexico cities.
oh wow. So
Yeah.
yeah, so this goes, so just newsnationnow.com there. I did a quick Google search. So I put in Mexico crime compared with United States,
Uh,
and then News Nation pops off with, while it's true Mexico has a significantly higher homicide rate, 28 per 100,000, and that's 28 people per every 100,000 die. We have 7 per 100,000.
when you average it
So,
all in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Data suggests violence against American citizens remains rare. In 2021, 75 U.S. citizens died by homicide in Mexico, according to state. Well, that's probably, I mean, I wouldn't want to be one of the 75.
No,
Yeah, that's a lot.
for sure.
But yeah, 5 times more. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I don't, well, anyway, it's whatever they can spin, right? You go to a lot of these countries, they have everything, they have all the wealth, and that's how they try to portray it. Then they portray the United States as being just one big mess of poor people,
Yep.
everybody starving, so the people from their country won't want to come here.
Well, one of our elected officials said it best. They said, "You want to get Mexico's attention, um, turn off for the ability to travel to Mexico for tourism, and they'll clean up their act real quick."
Very true.
But
Yeah, because all those fancy places are
we
there.
just keep going down there. One of the newscasters last night said, I have a nephew down in Cancun right now. What advice would you give him? He said, "Get back on the plane and come home. It's just not, it's just not safe."
No. Hey, would they ever figure out with that? Remember that liquor that people were dying of or something? And in these resorts, they were drinking the liquor in the room, I guess. And
Yeah, I don't know, but was that Mexico or was that I think that was a different country.
was it
Yeah,
maybe more Caribbean? I don't know.
yeah, I think it was Caribbean.
But yeah, that's anyway. But you'll get it straight here on SCV Insider, folks.
All of most of the facts.
All of most of the facts. Well, in the to kind of segue, still waiting for U.S. Taylor. Boy, it sure would have been nice to have him on the show.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
I had brought up some want to talk about this SB, where'd it go? SB 1383.
Okay, go ahead.
I do you on July 1st, it's going to Burtec, or I should say probably back to Burtec. Share my screen here with you
Waste
again.
management from waste management to Burtec.
Yeah. So waste management will no longer be. Let me bring up this other. So I guess they put out for proposal again. And we went with the lowest bidder, number one, but number two, apparently Burtec was more up to speed on this SB 1383, which is California Senate bill. Basically, it says a statewide effort to reduce emissions of short-lived climate pollutants by reducing organic waste disposal to 50% and 75. So by 2020 and 75% by 2025. So they're talking about organic waste in landfills. Do you know it emits 20% of the state's methane? I had no idea. And that's 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So what that means basically is we're going to be scraping our food into a separate bin. And what it appears is that it will go into the, like your green leaf, with your grass and your trimmings and so forth. But yeah, July 1st, your new trash, Burtec, and we've seen them around. I think they handle I think this is just for the city of Santa Clarita. So I don't know if it's the unincorporated parts, but I know Burtec handles parts of the area. I see old Burtec cans around. So I think, maybe 20 years ago it was Burtec, but yeah, they just got a 10-year contract for trash services. Nice thing is we'll get new cans,
right?
Which would be nice.
Did you get this container that they're dumping this? Did you click on that SB? Those little containers they're going to apparently give us, right? These little plastic things. Did you see that?
Yeah. So I read that there's going to be like a kind of like maybe like a Home Depot type bucket, like with a lid.
Right. Yeah. That's what it looks like. If you click on, if you even Googled SB 1383, and then there's here, I'll throw it in the show notes.
Yeah, I have that right here.
Yeah, it's got this one has the picture of somebody dumping one of those little plastic containers out. It says here California's experiencing the effects of climate crisis, hotter summers, longer fire season, extreme droughts. The droughts thing is hard to swallow. They're going to open those let the water out of those the things they're holding for drinking.
Oh yeah, that thing's tiny, huh?
Right? So, I mean, there's
I don't know how you're going to get
they should have.
I don't know how we're going to get the pizza boxes in there.
Those good greens, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know that I want that raw because even our recyclable. I use one of those Simple Human trash cans at home that has 2 buckets. One for trash, one for recyclables, and you're apparently not supposed to. Put a plastic liner in there, right? It's just that has that blue insert. You just throw your cans and your bottles or whatever in there, and then you just pull it out, dump it. They don't want you to have the trash bag,
right, correct,
in there. I don't like to clean that. So I always use a trash bag, and I don't think I'll be putting raw eggs. I mean, these trash cans are going to stink more than.
I remember the compost piles. I don't know if your mom ever did it. My mom didn't, but the neighbor lady did a compost pile. Ugh.
Yeah,
that smell was atrocious.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. And then I was, looking at what are the different items to go in, like what's considered organics, and of course they had a nice little video for us here through Burtec, so we can see.
Oh yeah. Let's see.
Just they have like a 30-second deal of talks about what's going to go with. So it's you have your green waste. It
looks like marijuana in the trash can.
Yeah, you throw that away too.
Wow, no more marijuana.
So they just want this straight up, meat. I mean, these cans are going to be nasty. There's a company, and I looked into starting one of these. I don't know how successful it'll end up being, but there's a company out here now that does goes around and cleans your cans for you, like on a monthly basis. Have you seen that? I forget what it's called, but it's basically a truck mounted deal where it kind of picks it up, sprays it with hot water and all that. So that might end up being a good idea with putting this stuff in there.
Maybe. I wonder if they're 100% self-contained, so they're not putting any of that crappy water on the ground.
Yeah.
That'll be the next thing they go after. If they don't have a self-contained unit that controls the water, maybe filters it gray water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be an issue.
So I thought that was interesting. I will look forward to getting new cans. Ours are broken, half the lid's there, and I can see why they wouldn't want to replace them right now that they're losing their contract with the city.
Right. Yeah. There's no
Right.
point in them even helping anymore. Right.
And I want to say the other thing that came up is with waste management, we were getting 4 bulk pickups a year. And I think this drops down to 2 a year with Vertec. So get your bulk pickups in.
Get it done now.
Before July 1st. Yeah.
And July 1st, it takes, they voted on this, what?
End of last year. I want to say it was January.
Yeah. Beginning. Yeah. So they did that. Yeah, that's right.
And we're talking, I think the July 1st was, let me see if I can pull this back up, is this, the services will commence July 1st. So they're going to start probably phasing out some of their services well before that, I would imagine. And we're middle of March already. So this is going to be coming up pretty quick.
I wonder what that's going to look like. All residential properties will be required to recycle bagged food waste and loose green waste or yard waste in their new green organics cart. Commercial properties that aren't already participating in a food waste recycling program will be required to start separating this material from their waste stream as well. So commercial businesses wow, that's an extra job, I think.
Oh, for sure.
So they're opening up new job opportunities for people, which is really nice. Thank you, California.
So even though Vertec came in as the lowest bidder, the rate still is going up, however.
Yes.
If you look, you got to read the fine print, because they said, that Santa Clarita chooses the lowest bidder, but it's still going up based on last year's costs. I mean, $2, but it adds up.
Oh yeah, that's all the comments here. There's 8 comments on the SCV TV or SCV News.com channel. I'm paying about $70 a month to Waste Management for weekly pickups. What will be the rate for Vertec? I live in Belcarro, Valencia, so that's a senior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think they said they have senior discounts, and you can still get those smaller cans. You see any of your neighbors with the small trash cans that hold,
Yeah, I've seen that. Right. That's for food, huh?
No, I think they have those for both recyclables and regular trash, but they're like a miniature version of the trash can.
Yeah, I have way more trash than that.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that.
Wow, what is bagged food waste? Down in San Fernando Valley, the new system says not to include any bags, including compostable ones. What's the difference? That was from Marcia.
I don't know, maybe paper bags versus plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they want this.
Contact the city of Santa Clarita for details.
Yeah, they want this stuff thrown in just raw. So your meat, in the summertime, meat's in there with the eggs and eggshells and
some old cheese that you didn't eat. Yeah,
pizza boxes. I mean, it's interesting. I guess that they want their pizza boxes with the grease on it, thrown in these versus the recyclable bin.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, good point. You're gonna have to scrape the pizza box.
Yep.
And get that cheese out of there.
But no, that can all go in. The pizza box can go in as well.
Oh, because they're going in the same thing.
Yeah.
So do I understand it right? This is what Dale Sambagulon says. Do I understand it right? All green waste yard trimmings must be bagged before putting it in the container. I have 8 containers for which I do fill all. Also, will these containers be free as they are now with Waste Management? Yeah, there's a lot.
I doubt it. I doubt that they're going to treat this as like your trash, because you can get, with Waste Management, as many leaf bins. Oh, and we'll do that kind of, like we just ordered an extra one a few weeks ago, because when things start growing, we got to do all the cutbacks and trimming. Yeah. So we'll fill more than one bin. So you can have as many as you want for free. But yeah, I think if it's going to be the composting bin, that's probably going to be treated like a trash can, and they're going to charge if you need extra ones.
Wow.
That's my guess anyways.
Well, there's a lot here on the SCV signal. City to consider $1.5 million for a command center.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. That's for a vehicle. They're talking about a vehicle.
A mobile command unit. Wow.
Exactly. That's
Nice.
a nice vehicle, huh?
That's at least a Provost RV with all the
Yeah,
bells
it
and
better be.
whistles, right? Pretty fancy. And you're going to
Yeah,
see it parked up in Carpinteria doing breaking news at
exactly.
the beach.
Exactly.
Very nice. I like it.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
What
welcome,
else you
welcome to the
got
big
there? Yeah,
time.
that mobile command. I'd be interested to see those vehicles, what they come up with. I'm sure there's some cities that already have one that they can go off of.
It reminds me of Stripes with Bill Murray, and they have that big RV with all
Yeah,
the whistles and stuff.
exactly.
Yeah, that was perfect. Let me check. Log into the real estate front here. What do you got on divorce end?
This week has been interesting. Um, I guess what we could talk about is just like people that are trying to DIY their own divorce
Mhm.
and the issues that they run into in trying to get through the court system. I say this week was interesting because we've had several clients come to us who have amicable divorce cases. So they're cooperative and agreement, all that good stuff, but then ended up hiring attorneys, just getting one attorney, like one spouse got an attorney, not because they were uncooperative, but just to handle their paperwork. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. The only difference is they're going to spend, I think the going rate, even for a simple divorce with an attorney, is like about $5,000 retainer.
Oh, okay.
And we're getting cases this week where people have done that. They've, once they're amicable, cooperative, they've hired one attorney to do the paperwork, but the attorney cannot get their case approved by the court. And we're talking really, really simple cases, things that we do every day in just a matter of days. And these cases have been dragged down for months. And half of me has to say, this may be due so they can bill extra time for all the extra work if it's intentional. But these folks, we had two clients hire us this week that
Right.
were in this predicament. And once we do a case review and look what they're doing, I don't think it's intentional because the paperwork, the way the attorneys are filing it, is completely incorrect, which is causing, in this one case, their judgment package. This is where people will get caught up. Is you can file your petition and do all your paperwork. It's not until you submit your judgment package for review that the court actually reviews any of your paperwork, and that will generally result in a reject if you don't know what you're doing or trying to do it yourself. So these attorneys are having the same problem. They're trying to file these cases as what's called a true default, which means a default without an agreement. And those are the toughest cases to get through the court. So because clients will say, well, how come this attorney can not get our case through, been rejected 5 times, and you say you can guarantee getting it approved? And the whole difference is in how you treat your divorce case. There's no reason to not submit a settlement agreement to court if the parties are cooperative. I think there's a misunderstanding out there amongst people trying to do their own divorce. And I talk about this so much,
Yeah.
the difference between defaults with agreement and without an agreement. True defaults without agreement, that falls back to California law. So when you're trying to divide property, your assets and debts, California law says everything has to be divided equally. You don't get a say because there's technically no agreement being submitted.
Right.
So whereas a default with an agreement, you have a settlement agreement, obviously the parties sign, and then you can circumvent the law and you can divide up your assets as you wish. It doesn't have to be equal at all. So in both these cases where the parties who hired us had attorneys previously, they were trying to submit the divorce as a default with no agreement, and it was getting flagged. And they're telling them they need to set hearings and trials, all this because the court needs to assess the values when there's no agreement, so they can make sure there's an even distribution of assets and debts. So in both these cases, we took them over, did an assessment, and all we had to do is draw out a settlement agreement for them that the parties will sign and notarize, and they'll sail right through the court. So it's this default process that these attorneys have been trying to file for. They probably think it's easier. And I think that even clients doing their own divorce, they'd say, well, I don't want to involve my spouse because, we're in agreement. So we're going to do this default. Those are the most challenging cases to get through the court. All we do is turn it into a default with a written agreement, and they get approved usually in a week or so.
I was going to say
that's kind of
that.
the news out here now.
Yeah, it sounds like that's the kind of lazy way out for the attorneys, right?
It's more work for them to try and do that. And I think what
Really?
happens is there's that, they have that attorney client relationship. So
Right.
they're not working with both, like we work with both spouses in all cases. And that's what makes the process
They're
more
only on
seamless.
one side of it.
They're only,
because
yeah.
they're
And if they're going to hire someone, it should be someone who's neutral, who's going to handle the paperwork for both sides versus doing the paperwork for one spouse and not for the other. And that's why they're doing it as this default process, because they're not helping the other party with their paperwork. So it's an interesting how they're doing this, but it's causing them problems to where this is now 3 cases that we've got approved, drafted as a settlement agreement, written agreement. It's not a problem.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's what's been going on this week. And we don't get a lot of cases from attorneys. So that's why it's noteworthy that these attorneys are unable to get these through and how they're handling them. We talked about this, I think last week's show or the week before, about
Mhm.
companies taking on cases, only doing the paperwork for one spouse, but then guaranteeing the paperwork will be approved by the court. And that's impossible if both parties aren't participating.
So these agreements. So if you have a couple that's amicable getting divorced and they have various assets, if they don't do an agreement, California law, they split everything in the middle. They don't care who's uprooted or not. All
Right.
assets must be liquidated, cashed out, and then money's divided.
Exactly. I can give you a
Period.
perfect, yeah, I can give you a perfect example of that. This is probably 8 years ago. We had a client who said that the husband doesn't want anything. I can have all my, assets. She had 401ks and pensions worth quite a bit of money. They had a house and all that. So we, filed their case. Then he decided he wasn't going to participate or cooperate at all. Said he wasn't going to fight it, but he wasn't going to sign anything. So when that happens, we have to refile the case. Now it's going to be a default without an agreement. And if you submit the judgment and say she's going to keep all of her assets like he said she could, but he's not signing an agreement, that will not get approved by the court. They will mandate it to be divided equally. So even though he didn't want anything supposedly because he didn't participate, it was ordered by the court that everything be split 50-50. So that's the challenges and
Wow.
the issues with doing these defaults, and why I won't even take those cases unless there's no assets, no debts, no kids,
Yeah.
short-term marriage. And and even with spouse support, if you've been married longer than 10 years and you want to terminate spouse support, you can only terminate it by agreement. You can't terminate because California law says the jurisdiction will remain indefinitely. So we have these people that are trying to terminate spousal on a true default with
Mhm.
no agreement, and the court rejects their judgment because it goes against California law. But by agreement, we put in a stipulation that they waive it and terminate it, no problem. So the biggest difference is agreement versus no agreement in getting these cases through.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
You would think so. So the guy's trying to look good, probably. Oh, I don't want anything. I'm just not going to participate,
right.
and ends up still getting half.
Yep, exactly.
Lovely.
I,
Just
I tell folks that it's better if they contest it than do nothing, because when a spouse does nothing on the other end, it's very challenging to get through court because you're going to have multiple court hearings. Because the court's going to wonder, why is this person not participating? Why are they not involved? Especially if there's kids involved in custody and so
right.
forth. The court doesn't understand that, so they're going to set multiple hearings, especially when people intentionally frustrate the process, which we don't have to deal with that too often because we're dealing with folks who are cooperative.
Mhm.
But where parties will like file a response and then do nothing else, they've made that official appearance with the court, and then they don't do anything else. They just disappear. And the court, because they've appeared, they have to have multiple hearings before they will order the divorce and property division and custody, because that official appearance has been made, and then they no longer show up. So, and that'll take a year and a half to finalize, because you have to get that case into the court system in front of a judge multiple times to finalize those types of cases.
I want to ask you: is there ever does everybody always go to court on every single divorce, or you don't even have to go if everything's amicable paperwork? It's all done that way.
Right. Yeah. Our clients never go to court. If you reach an agreement on all issues, there's no court appearances whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it's a
great. That's
nice,
good to know.
nice process.
Yeah,
As nice as divorce can be, right? You
sure.
talk to your spouse, reach an agreement. We put all the paperwork together. It's basically, it'll never even see a judge, to be honest with you. It's just the judicial assistant at court who approves these, and now all of these with LA County, at least, it's electronically filed. So there's just a clerk who has the authorization by the judge to put their name down
Stamp it,
as
stamp,
approved.
stamp, stamp.
Yeah, because it's more procedural at that point. They're looking at, I's dotted, T's crossed. Procedurally, the case was handled properly. Other than that, they could care less of the nature of the agreement because they know that the parties agreed to it. They've done all their paperwork. They've notarized it, and so that they're just looking for procedural elements for approval.
I'm wondering, with a divorce, and I know I've been looking at your content. You're putting a lot of you're pumping out a lot of good information out there for people.
Yeah.
It's just it just blows my mind that when you're talking about something so important, divorce, you don't do. It seems like people get caught up in all the hype. Maybe they're running the wrong searches in Google, but the people that are heading the law firms and the attorney firms and even the other paralegal type services, they're gaming it pretty well. They pay a lot of money to be at the top of those search engines.
Oh, for
And
sure.
when you're clicking on this stuff, a lot of times that's not what you want. You're not going to get the true story.
Yeah, I don't use the paid advertising. They're for the lawyer terms and attorney firm name. When you're Googling those are $10-$20 a click, and
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense to us. That's why we do all the organic. And I'm trying to do 5 videos a day on YouTube on shorts, and those are starting to pick up pretty good. So yeah, that and referrals.
Yeah, well, you do a good job, brother. I wanted to talk about the real estate world just real quick. We have the lowest inventory I've seen in a very long time. 219 single-family residences, condos, and townhomes for sale total. That's all the active inventory, and 14 of those are coming soon listings. So if you're looking online, you see that coming soon, that just means the agent has 21 days, if memory serves, to be able to put the property in the listings as actually coming soon. And that was utilized as a competition forum for Zillow back in the day, because Zillow used to have coming soon listings that agents could upload. But then there were arguments between that and the board. They were like getting more access to listings up front. So the board of realtors basically built their own 21-day coming for properties. But there's 14 of those. That's it. That's very low inventory. And then there was the debacle in you had a couple of banks taken over by the Fed up in San Jose.
Yeah, it's been all over the news.
Yeah, rumor is that's going to push down borrowing rates, which may be the trick, because we were hoping that they'd get down in the 4s or maybe 5s. So that could very well happen, I would guess.
Yeah.
But inventory is still very low. Properties that get put out there, we put a manufactured home on, and that thing, 4 offers so far, and that's out West Simi. Yeah, quick. People are just waiting. There's no inventory.
Is there financing on those, or are those all cash?
No, you get regular, depending on if it's on leased land, it requires a different type of financing. A lot of those are cash. If you own the land, then it's regular residential financing. But so that's manufactured home on a lease lot in a park.
Okay.
You can get kind of a different type of financing, but that's very different than a mobile home. Still on axles, not on a foundation, on leased land. That's a whole different animal. Those are difficult to get financing for.
Yeah.
But there are lenders out there that'll do it. Interest rates are a little bit higher because you have the DMV registration. So it's a trailer, a mobile home is almost like an RV.
Right.
Getting that kind of a loan. But the price point's very low, but then you got to look at the land lease.
The land lease.
This one here is almost $1,000 a month. Canyon View Estates out here in Santa Clarita, they'll run at least that 1,500-1,600 maybe for the you never own the land. It's
they're pretty pricey out there.
Yeah, 99-year leasehold. He has all that solar up on the side of the mountain. I guess he fought with the city.
That is so bad. That is so bad.
Boy, brilliant. Whoever owns that, brilliant man. When that foreclosure market hit, he wasn't giving much access to the banks to go in there and secure their improvement that they had the financing on. So he basically claimed a lot of those.
Interesting. That 21-day coming soon, who does that benefit? The realtor or the seller?
I think it does a little of both, especially when the inventory is so limited. So people see it and they start getting that interest, but it could also be a double-edged sword, because then your neighbors see it and say, maybe I should get my house on the market. So now we have more competition. I guess it depends. I haven't seen that second scenario with people doing coming soon and seeing other listings start to pop. When they go active, I've seen that maybe a little bit more, but the coming soon does benefit both the seller and also the agent, because then I get this time to take a listing and basically sprinkle it all over my social media, get the virtual tours, the photos uploaded, all that fancy crap, and then get that out there in the marketing and advertising realm before the listing is actually even active. So it helps kind of bring more attention to me also. But
That makes
I
sense.
th- I think it's a good mechanism. Before, what agents were doing, and some still kind of do this, but I think there could be a violation or an ethical violation. It just depends on how you look at it. But they'll take a listing and they'll make it active today, because that's how the internet's syndication sites will show it active,
Mm.
not coming soon. Then they'll say first showings to commence 2 weeks from now during the first open house.
I see.
So then now the public doesn't see it as coming soon anymore. They see it as actually active. The chances of them maybe contacting the listing agent to try to get access may be better in that regard. So
Right.
agents are still doing it. But at the end of the day, it's always best to have your own. Using the seller's agent, even though dual agency is allowed in the state of California, that's a real slippery slope in some way. And think of it this way, you call me, Tim, to sell your house, and you say, you know what, I'll take 700, but I really need 750. That's what I really need, but I'll take 700. So we list the property, let's say, for 775. Looks good at the comps and all that. So then I get the buyer, and the buyer says, you know what, I'll pay 750. So then I write the offer and I present it to you. What are you thinking? You're probably thinking, most people, I sold you out. I
Mm.
told the buyer what you would really take.
Right.
It's just, and it always seems to happen that way. You get that, they just guess that number. It's like, oh,
Mm.
but that's part of the difficulty. Then when it comes to negotiation, I'm coming to you, the buyer wants this. And you're like, well, Connor, I hired you to sell my house. Why don't you just tell him no? So then I go back to the buyer and tell him no. And the buyer says, well, I hired you because I thought I would have a better chance. Oh, it's
Mm.
just a mess.
It's slippery slope, huh?
It really is. So
Yeah.
you got
Yeah, that's tricky.
six states in Canada that don't allow dual agency.
Mm.
California, it's still alive and well. Just, I'd love to be on both sides of it. Am I actually doing both of my clients good service? I can say I do. I can say that I can be bipolar. I can completely separate the whole worlds from each other, but it's just, there's a lot of doubt that can be injected even if I do the best
Sure.
job.
Sure.
It's tough.
Are the listings, are people still trying to keep up with last sales? Are they still coming in high? How are people
Yeah.
pricing their properties?
Yeah, the days on market have shot up from being maybe 10, 15, 20. We're now at 45 to 50. So that's taking longer to sell properties. And I believe that's a direct result of people still wanting to get those 2021 cash, or the injection of cash prices above and beyond the listing price with the multiple competition. Now, to be frank, in the current property that one of the ones I'm working on for sale, that was the strategy. We asked everybody for their highest and best, and we're still waiting for the dust to settle and see how far people are willing to go. But that's also something to watch out for, because then you have to consider appraised value.
Mhm.
Unless it's a cash transaction, they're waiving appraisal. And then somebody will say, well, with cash, you don't need an appraisal. Well, people still have a right. You can still say you want the appraisal done, even if it's all cash. And you can still make the property dependent, the sale dependent on the appraisal, but people kind of forget that. They think, well, with cash, you don't appraise. I've had plenty of people paying cash for properties that sent an appraiser in there.
Are you still seeing multiple offers then?
Yeah, they came quick on a manufactured home, 4 quick.
Wow.
And it's still happening. It's happening on regular price as well. Some of the different teams here at Realty One, my office, we all sit and talk by the water cooler and hear this and that listings that they put on the market. Yeah, multiple offers still very much exist when a property's priced correctly. If they put something on the market $250,000 more than the last comparable sold, probably not, unless it's so unique, far from the one that sold. But if you're looking at actual comparables, you're not going to get those offers or even the viewings, just because the property is so outside the realm of what it should be. And
Right.
people are going to Zillow. They're going to these different syndication sites wanting to know what these properties are worth versus what they're advertised for. And understand, these syndication systems have algorithms built on trying to influence some kind of a decision by the people using the website. So somebody using X real estate website, whatever it may be.com, and they go on there, they punch in what's this property worth, because they're interested in maybe viewing it, making an offer. The system returns $750,000 is what their value is. If you look at the comps, in some cases, that algorithm has been adjusted to maybe add value or take away value depending on what the thought thinkers of that organization believe is going to be their best return. And their best return comes in the way of the agents paying that system to get leads. So whatever's going to bring in more leads, that's what the system does. Should they be upfront and honest? Yes. Are they? I don't know. I see a lot of variables in those numbers that they produce as far as value goes. I see a lot of different variables. And it's in some cases, it's a big change. And they should be accessing a lot of the same data, but because they're not realtors, depending on the system, they fall under the property tax preview. So a lot of the cash deals, maybe they might not see them recorded the way that they should, or they're not seeing the concessions. Because on a real estate transaction, I have to put in there, if you buy a house and we're able to get $10,000 from the seller for repairs or whatever it may be, or as a price reduction, sometimes you're not going to see that reflected in the sale records. Just depends on how that money's worked into the transaction.
Right. Right. Interesting. So even with the low inventory, we're seeing and high interest rates, still seeing multiple offers. Is that the low inventory, is that driving that right now?
Absolutely. And I think that's going to be prevalent throughout the rest of this year. We're not going to have any big home run. We're not going to see 500-600 units for sale, which would kind of make the market a healthier place for buyers. But right now, sellers still have full possession of that ball. And, real estate buyers, properties are still going to be going up over the next, what they deem the next few years, but not massive amounts, maybe 1 to 3 to 4%, just depending on the market. I don't see the lending side of it, but you have that thing in San Jose, right? Pop, feds come in.
Yep.
That's reminiscent. Remember back in 2006, 2007, New Century Bank, I think they were the first part of that house of cards to collapse. And that's what started all. Countrywide went away. All these other banks, they sold all their assets to other banks. And would it take something like that to put the market on its head? Yeah, probably. It'd have to be a big one, though. B of A, not some bank I've never heard of. Not that I'm the guy, but if a B of A fails or Wells Fargo fails or Citibank, or Union, yeah, these are big.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, if our daughter is ready to buy something, it's just in Santa Clarita, what would you say an entry level kind of Valencia proper, I guess even a condo or townhome? We're looking at what, 450, you think, for 2 bedroom?
At least I'll give you the least expensive in Valencia, coming soon and active. If we do if we change the list price up, the least expensive right now for sale is a Santa Fe. That's one of those over there.
Those are the pink ones.
Yeah, correct. So this is on Del Monte. It's active right now. Been on the market 21 days. Built in 1987. 880 square feet. A 1+1 Tim 435.
Wow.
Another 1+1 440. Another 1+1 440. These are the same ones. The other 440 is 696. It's even smaller. Built in 85. Same. That's Arbor Park there. So that's the one across from Granary Square.
Yeah.
Across from the Ralph's, Arbor Park. Another Santa Fe 465. So here's a little thing, and this because you were in the business, but 435 for a 1-bedroom. Stepping up to a 2-bedroom, same complex in the Santa Fe's 499.
Okay.
So it's almost worth it to try to get that 2-bedroom if you can, because your return on investment is going to be even better. And if you can get a 3-bedroom for maybe 30 or 40 more, that's where you'd want to be. Perfect. But again, that first property people buy, tell them, if you can, try to keep that as your F-off home. This is the one you have. You're going to work to pay it off. Don't leverage it. Try to hold on to everything you can. I know there's many investors and very rich people that'll say, don't be ridiculous. The money's, you're wasting your money by not using it to invest in other properties. I say, get other properties to do that.
Yeah. That
one where you live, that's the one you can use your middle finger, flip people off, say, no, this is my house. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Don't mess
with
it.
On to it. Yep. I wouldn't encumber it. I wouldn't borrow money against it. I wouldn't.
Right. Yeah.
But that's my advice, even to people, as I'm looking for real estate for people too. I'm looking at it kind of as an investment strategy. So when they do decide to move up to their next one that they can encumber, they got this one placeholder. So they'll always have it. They can rent it out. Right now, rentals are, oh my God, any rental goes within moments as it comes on the market.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
interesting.
incredible, the rental market. I told you, I think we were talking about last week that our clients that are divorcing and then want to sell, that their rent is significantly more than their mortgage.
Yeah.
Depending on their home value or what their mortgage is. But they're finding out, and the competition to get these, even like the apartments, over off of Magic Mountain behind Tilly's, and that's just that all that apartment row.
Oh,
They're very select over there. We have a rental in our neighborhood that's $3,900, and this is for a 1,600 square foot, 3-bedroom house. So it's incredibly high,
very much so. And you can almost, even with these high interest rates, you can almost cover your whole mortgage,
right?
even with that.
Yeah. So it's interesting that people that could buy that don't buy. We have some long-term renters in our neighborhood.
Mhm.
I think they're, with the amount of rent they're paying, their mortgage would be about the same. And it's I know that it's up to the person to sell, so they're renting it obviously. But what is like this 435 Santa Fe you're talking about? What is the cheapest someone can get in if they're a first time buyer? Is FHA still a thing?
Oh yeah. So if the complex is FHA approved, they'll be able to get in. Usually that's 3.5, 3.5% down for an FHA loan. So if we do the math on that one for that one bedroom,
And is that the
which is,
lowest? Is that still the lowest down type program, or are there others?
besides VA, that's the lowest. So that'd be 15 grand in. That would be your down payment on an FHA loan for that Santa Fe priced at 439.
Okay.
So that's your in. The other costs that would be associated with that 15,365, which would be your down payment, are going to be the cost that you're going to be paying for closing costs. So whatever your lender's charging you, and then whatever half of the escrow and title insurance fees are. Usually that's 1% each. A lot of times lenders are 1% fee. Escrow and title for the buyer's side is 1%. So you have another $8,000 and some change on top of it that you'll need to bring in. Or in this market, with that property being on the market as long as it's been, and I would have to check because there's one on the market 4 days, there's one on the market 10, one on the market 31. So maybe we go hit that overpriced one, the one that's higher than the other ones. Maybe we
Yeah.
go hit them a little low, see what we can do. But anyway, at the end of the day, you have at that 435 figure, you have we would ask the sellers to pay those closing costs. So then they could contribute to the closing costs, cover those. So at 435, we looked at the value and 435 was good deal. Let's say compared to what's sold, let's say that's a good deal on the way it's out, looks, location, all that. Then we may offer 435, but ask for $8,000 in closing cost credit. So the buyer doesn't have to come in with that. And they're
That makes
only
sense.
for the 15 grand.
So you really
V
could get in for that 3.5 is pretty close to
Yeah,
that.
and that would be it. Yeah, so that's the best. There are these agricultural loans out there that are 100% where you don't have to put a down payment, but we have obscure areas that, like parts of Castaic, agricultural parts off the 14 freeway, like little pockets, but they're hard to find houses in those areas.
That's the USDA ones, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't
it
know where.
exists.
Yeah. I came across, I think I had a client that had one. And is there restrictions on selling, or you have to hold it for a certain period of time? There was some issue they had with, I can't remember what the problem was, but they either
I
couldn't sell
don't
it yet or.
I do so few, Tim. I don't know. Let me punch this in. I don't know if there's any restrictions, but I wouldn't think you purchase the property. Maybe it can't be like the Good Neighbor Next Door program where you have to hold the thing for what, 3
Okay. Yeah. I
years?
don't remember what the issue was.
Yeah, it's interesting. But they have these, you can run the maps and kind of see what properties, and they're kind of all around little
Yeah.
places. But yeah, I don't know the requirement. I wouldn't think so. It would kind of be like a VA, I would think, because you're buying it at zero if the house is eligible. And with a VA, you don't need to hold on to it for any time. You turn around and sell it,
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
So the VA is really good to their people because you can also have a house that's in distress and potentially go buy another one saying that it's rented. Not that that's ethical or moral, but there's not a lot of checking done. So I've
Yeah,
heard of people doing
I've
that.
used my VA loan probably half a dozen times.
Yeah, it's a valuable resource for the
Yeah.
veterans. They don't realize what they have until they try to buy a house without it.
Yeah, and the biggest benefit of if you're a disabled vet like I am, even 0% rated, you're not getting that what they call the fee, the funding fee.
Correct.
So that's nice because that saves you $10,000, $12,000 just on a refi.
Yeah, and with the people that have VA that aren't disabled, there's ways to pick up those costs that the lender can contribute to
Mm,
by maybe monkeying around with the interest rate a little bit to absorb some of those costs. So truly the closing costs are nothing. But it depends on the lender and the program. There's only certain allowables they're allowed or certain amounts they're allowed to contribute. But a lot of them for the veterans, they'll go out on that limb. They'll do that for them.
that's good to know.
So, real estate, it still kicks on. I foresee the interest rates coming down. I don't think we're going to have any blockbuster inventory, or I don't think we're going to be going up, that 50, 60, $100,000 in offers, but it's going to very much depend on the property. I have one that I'm working on now that has this fantastic lot that's difficult to compare with a lot that you can actually drive semi trucks on that's locally here in Saugus. So, no HOA. It's going to be a very attractive property. Those are hard to price because there's nothing to compare it to.
Right.
But there's somebody, I know for sure there's got to be half a dozen people, probably contractors, that are out there and they have massive equipment that they've been thinking about where they're going to put her, maybe RV, maybe whatever. It's going to be attractive. It's just getting that price and getting it on the market.
Yeah. Is it not generally every summer? Does that when kind of listings pick up for you? Is that when that
Yeah,
usually starts?
usually the
Kids are out of school.
March. Yeah, March, April, May. So usually closer to the end of the school season. Then you have the summer break. So that's usually very hot for real estate. So
Mhm.
it usually kicks off sometime in March. We're here at the middle. We haven't seen it yet. We're now at two, whatever I said earlier, 216 or 219.
Yeah.
That's very, very low. Absorption rates, less than a month and a half. But it is picking up the way that it typically does. We do have a high buyer drive. I just don't have that inventory yet. Probably in the next 2 or 3 months. But if the buyers keep going, interest rates drop, that inventory is going to be absorbed very quickly. So we might not even get above 300 units for sale.
So are there buyers that you have that just are waiting to find the right property and they're just kind of hanging on until something they like shows up?
They're doing that. They're also hoping interest rates are going to come down.
Yeah.
So they're kind of they're hinging the buying process, hoping that the rates are going to come down. The saying out there is, you don't marry your interest rate, you marry your house. So when it does come down, you can refinance, which is good advice if the rates come down.
Right.
But if you buy now, you have to be settled at that interest rate. And we talked about this. I talk about it ad nauseum to my clients. You got to be good at today's rate. You got to be happy there.
May have that for a while.
Yeah. I mean, you might never do better than that. So, if you're happy with that, you can absorb it. And you have to think of all costs, gardener, pool person, if you're going to have one, if you have somebody do all of that has to be factored.
It adds up.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have an extra $2,000 a month just on maintenance alone, hiring different vendors, different things, maybe paying different types of insurances that you might not expect. And also, if you're buying into an HOA community, a big question to ask, like even the Del Montes, is your fire insurance going up?
Mm.
Is it paid through the homeowners? And what's that going to look like for me in the next few years? Because we have some of these places, Tim, $500-$600 a month increase in their HOA dues.
Really?
Whew, it's remarkable. Yeah. And that's because of insurance. So many people, so many insurance companies leaving the state of California. The homeowners are, insured themselves, but they hire these outside companies for fire and so on. They're leaving the state. So now it's become less of a monopoly and more. There's only a few companies that insure it and they're able to raise those rates.
Interesting. That's kind of scary if your house, your HOA goes up by that much. That's significant.
Yeah. It's not $50. It's heavy. Some of these places are heavy.
And there's nothing in the bylaws that prevents them from doing that, huh?
There are increases, but apparently there's some kind of no, you know what? I apologize. They go to the membership. So whoever's voting, they're approving it. So that's how they get beyond whatever the cap is, the 1 or 2% per year in the HOA increase. They actually go to the people. So how they're packaging and selling it, I don't know. I don't know the other option though. If the people refuse to do it, so now the complex is uninsured.
I guess I bet that has it's not like we need a new roof. Let's vote on it. It's, you know, this is what
We
it
want our
is.
garage doors to be repainted. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is a yeah, you kind of need this.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, here we go. Let's see.
Must have had
5
something
minutes
come on.
ago, he slept.
What's that?
I just got the text. I'm so sorry to let you down. I just woke up, slept through my alarm. That was our guest.
Very nice.
Very good. He's a good man. Well, we'll have him on sometime in the future. I'm trying to get a life coach from Facebook and trying to have her on. I've interviewed her before. She's wonderful. And I think she would be able to give a lot of insight into, you finding your inner girl, your inner child, Tim.
Sounds good.
You need that. You're too rough around the edges. You need to join up with your feminine side more.
Yeah, there you go.
Very good, my friend. You have anything else for the good of the
No,
world?
that's all I had for you today.
Boy, it was good. Good show. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next Tuesday. We're very excited that you tuned in. Tim and I are always blessed to have everybody here. If you have any ideas for the show, you can send them over. Just go to Divorce661 or ConnorWithHonor.com. Either one of those, you'll find us, and send us what you have ideas for the show, and on Facebook and Instagram and the whole 9 yards. Thanks for tuning in.
Good talking to you again, Connor. Talk to you next week.
All right, brother. Be well.
All right, you too.